Happy Halloween! It's me, Philip James, and thank you for coming to my spooky party. This weekend, I had the opportunity to go to a Halloween party. Normally, I go to a couple. This year, I only did one, so I really wanted to go big. I decided to go as the Queen of Hearts, mostly inspired by the Helena Bonham Carter version from Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. I wanted the blue eyeshadow, I wanted the white face, red, heart-shaped hair. So stay with me as I take you on a get ready with me journey. Hello, it is Philip James, and thank you for coming to my party. I've never shown this part on camera before, but I love to plump my lips before I start any look. It really helps with photographs and just makeup application in general. Going to also apply this Milk of Magnesia primer, which I did use the last time I did my Princess Jafar look. It really helps control oil production on the face and really keeps the makeup lasting a really long time. It dries very chalky though, so it looks a little weird. I'm once again using the white liquid eyeshadow from the Wet n Wild Fantasy Makers collection to go ahead and prime my eyes. Since I'm doing a white face of makeup anyway, I thought this was perfect to kind of go a little bit bigger and around just to really get that blended out into the white. Because I'm doing a more precise Queen of Hearts look, I'm going to use these tapes to kind of give a nice crisp line. Using the Blue Blood palette by Jeffree Star, I go ahead and put I'm Cold as my transition shade, bringing it all the way up to the eyebrows. Then, with the shade Blue Blood, I decided to go into my crease, bringing the crease up a little bit by blending it up into I'm Cold and darkening it. Then using Deceased, I'm going to go ahead and deepen the crease a little bit more. Using Ice Tray to go ahead and put on my lid. Even though you can't see it here, I did use the shade Cullinan for my inner corner highlight. Just blending back and forth. I decided to chop this video up a little bit to not go step by step as much, but I do kind of go back and forth with the colors a lot just to kind of give that ultimate blend. Next, I'm using the dark navy shade Undertaker from the Blue Blood palette to really get that outer corner. Now here's the tough part. I am using a Wet n Wild liquid liner. I decided to do it while the tapes were still on because it makes it a lot easier to not go past that line. I did want a little bit of a wing just to kind of give myself some drama, and because I am going to be using false lashes, it really helps build up that lash bed and give a more flared out lash look. This is always the most nerve-wracking part of any of my looks because I'm like, am I gonna screw it up? I'm very proud of myself for really being patient, taking my time, and I really am happy with the way that it turned out. Using the Wet n Wild paint pot in white, going ahead and using that as my foundation to kind of give that clown or Marie Antoinette, Queen of Hearts look. Was very inspired by the Helena Bonham Carter version from the Alice in Wonderland remake that came out a few years ago. So I'm really getting that white coverage everywhere. It's not exactly, you know, the highest end white coverage, so I had to go over it a few times with the white paint pot just to really build up that coverage. Then using the red paint pot from Wet n Wild's Fantasy Makers collection this year, decided to go ahead and contour that way. I've never really contoured with a color that isn't like a brown or something, a bronzer, so this was the first for me to use a color to contour with. I know it seems a little bright right now, but once I get it blended and then going ahead right now like I'm doing here, and as you can see from the fairy dust flying in the screen, I'm using a translucent powder to go ahead and just set all of that down so it doesn't crease and slide around on my face. As you can see, just cleaning up my eye look. I wanted to make sure it's nice and crisp. And then using the shade Blue Blood to go ahead and give some color underneath the eye now that the rest of my face has been set. And cutting my cheek with a little more translucent powder to give it some nice definition. And then using the Vampy blush from this year's Wet n Wild Fantasy Makers collection. I used it in my previous video. I'm going to use it here to just kind of go over top of the red contours that I showed earlier. And then using the shade Glucose from the Blood Sugar palette as well, I am just setting a lot of the white, the highlight parts of my face. Using the shade Fresh Meat, I'm using a pencil brush to contour my nose, and then going back in with the translucent powder and color Glucose. Now using the shade Drug Lord from Jeffree Star's Cosmetics, I'm going to give myself a white lip, and then setting it down with translucent powder just to keep it from moving and just keep it really set in place. As you can see, I'm also using a brush with translucent powder, just really set that down. I want to make sure that nothing is moving or cracking or creasing. And then using a little bit of highlighting powder from Wet n Wild, I'm going to get all my cheekbones and the bridge of my nose, my chin, my forehead, spraying it down with setting spray, the glossy set from Anastasia Beverly Hills. Now using a Wet n Wild retractable red gel pencil, I am going ahead and creating the heart shape on my lips that I'm going to be creating. I'm not using my full lip, as you can see. This was really tough. I kept dragging on my lip and whatnot. I probably should have used a red liquid liner of some kind, but it ended up really working out. You'll be able to see as I go through the video, I go back and forth a lot with pencil and the liquid lips to really make that as crisp as I can. And I'm just using a red liquid lip here from Urban Decay from their Vice liquid lip line, which I believe is discontinued now, but it has a little bit of gold shimmer in it, so I decided to go ahead and use that color. as you can see here, cleaning up with the little drug lord, going back with the pencil, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm also using a dramatic lash here. As you can see, it's a little bit longer on the ends. It matches up with my liner, which really creates a denser lash look. And then, once again, going in with glucose to really blend out my lower lash line. And then using a NYX white crayon in my waterline to really make my eyes appear bigger. A little Lash Paradise mascara from L'Oreal helps to complete the eye look. Then using an Urban Decay brow pencil in black, I'm just going ahead and filling in my natural brows. I didn't really have a lot of time to go ahead and cover my brows with glue, so I'm just working with my natural brow and using a black pencil. Then using the shade Blood Sugar from the Blood Sugar palette, I went ahead and tapped it around the outside. Then some more glucose around the mouth. I wanted to add some red gemstones from the Wet n Wild Fantasy Makers collection to the outside of my eyes, and then using a pearl opalescent type of stone to the center of my forehead. And with that, I think it's time to slip into my costume.